This kind of situation happens often. US citizens and permanent residents living abroad for a long time. They know they have to report foreign assets and income, but what should they do? They haven't done it until now, and they've heard a lot of scary stories. Huge fines, massive taxes. They even say, you could go to jail. So, they're considering giving up their citizenship reluctantly. But that's not the solution. In many cases, you can be pardoned without any fines, and I'll explain through examples that giving up citizenship is not a fundamental solution. Can you resolve tax issues without giving up citizenship? This is a question from a client. Hello, I am a US citizen, working in marketing and PR in Korea. I was born in the US but have spent most of my time in Korea. I have rarely been to the U.S. There are cases like that sometimes. And of course, since I haven't really lived in the U.S., I wouldn't have known about the obligation to file US taxes or anything like that. So, I have never filed taxes. The U.S. Recently, people around me have advised that, in my situation, the best option is to renounce US citizenship. But I wasn't sure. So I reached out to get an expert's opinion. I'll explain my current situation in more detail. I've been living in Korea for about 5 years, and before that, I grew up in Japan. Currently, I have a salary income of about 300 million won and some investment income, and recently in 2024, I sold a property in Korea that was held under joint ownership and received about 700 million won in net proceeds. However, as I mentioned earlier, I have not reported taxes or foreign assets to the US so far. In this situation, I'm really wondering if giving up my citizenship, as advised by those around me, is the best option. Isn't there another way to resolve this? That's the question. I'm particularly worried about the penalties and fines for not having filed taxes until now. On the other hand, I don't want to give up my citizenship because I'm worried it might cause inconveniences in future relations with the US or when entering the country. Yes, that's correct. This kind of situation happens quite often. For US citizens and permanent residents living abroad long-term, they know they have reporting obligations. But it's not just about income tax filing. It's also about reporting foreign financial assets or any assets held overseas, which they haven't done. If this is discovered by mistake, could be a big problem. And they've heard a lot of frightening stories about it. They worry about massive fines, tax penalties, and in the worst case scenario, criminal charges that could even lead to imprisonment. So they wonder if they should just give up and leave it. But the purpose of this video is to explain that this isn't the case. This is actually our case. We often handle cases like this, but recently this came up as a consultation case, so I thought it would be good to cover it in a video this time. Now, before we get started, as always, this channel is providing professional information on US law, tax law, and financial planning in an easy-to-understand manner. Not just this video. I will continue to upload other videos as well, with more beneficial content, so make sure you don't miss out. To do that, if you haven't already, please subscribe and, like right now, let's get started. First, we need to look at what the problem is. Regarding this person, the situation this person is facing is this. There are two issues. The first is not filing income tax as a US citizen. And if there is income tax due, there would be an obligation to pay it, which has not been fulfilled. This is because US citizens are considered residents under US tax law. Therefore, they are required to report all income earned worldwide. Known as worldwide income, they must report this and pay taxes if necessary. In this situation, the client has an annual salary income of about 300 million won. Additionally, there is investment income that hasn't been reported to the US, which is a problem. We don't know about past income, but this is the situation with recent income. Now, the second issue is, it's the reporting of foreign assets. There are various things like Apple, Petco, etc., but as a US citizen or tax resident, if the balance of foreign financial assets exceeds a certain threshold, it must be reported. In the client's case, despite having financial assets in Korea, they did not report this, which is a problem. These two issues can be said to be the problems faced by the client. And by not reporting these, they are likely worried about fines and penalties due to past non-compliance with reporting obligations. So then, what solutions are there for this? The key is the streamlined filing procedure. It can be considered a core tool in solving this issue. I've covered this in detail in several separate videos. There are videos explaining the historical background of this process, the characteristics of the system, who is qualified, and how they can. It's being shown here now, so those who are relevant should definitely watch it again, as it will be very helpful. So today, I won't be explaining the background or the details of that in great detail. In the past, even if I missed reporting a foreign account or income tax, if such violations were unintentional, it is an official amnesty program provided by the US IRS that offers an opportunity to resolve the issue without penalties, or in some cases, with a 5% penalty or no penalty at all. So, by following this procedure properly, you can resolve both income tax and foreign asset reporting omissions at the same time through this process. The main features of this kind of streamlined filing procedure are as follows. As I just mentioned, the first is that you can resolve both income tax reporting and asset reporting at once. So you submit income tax returns for the past 3 years and foreign financial account reports for the past 6 years. At the same time, by attaching a letter explaining why you qualify as a non-willful violator. This serves as a way to receive amnesty. And in this case, there are actually 2 scenarios. The first is a method used by people living in the United States, and the other is a method used by people living overseas. In this person's case, they've lived in Korea for a long time. And not only that, they haven't been in the United States. They've lived in Japan and Korea, so they qualify as an overseas resident. In this case, the 5% penalty for failing to report overseas assets is also waived. Ultimately, this means that the failure to report assets could be resolved without any penalties. An assessment of unintentional violations will be necessary, but I will omit the specific details here. And then the second issue is it's related to income tax. Ultimately, if I have to file income tax returns for the past 3 years, and if any income tax was omitted, then that income tax will also need to be paid. Additionally, since interest will accrue on that, the question is how to handle this burden. So, this person has been living abroad for a long time, right? Then there are generally 2 advantageous aspects of US tax law that this person can typically benefit from. The first one is the foreign earned income exclusion. So what this means is that for Americans living abroad as of 2024, they can exclude up to $120,000 of earned income annually from taxable income. So in the case of this person, if their annual salary income is about 300 million won, how much would that be? It would be over $200,000. Out of this, up to $120,000 can already be excluded from taxable income in the U.S. from the start. So what would the remaining half be? It would be another $120,000 to $130,000, right? This means only this amount would be picked up as taxable income. Then what else can be utilized? There is something called the foreign tax credit. This is a simple concept. Even if we accept that as an American, you are taxed on worldwide income. When the US government taxes income sourced from abroad, it doesn't tax it fully. Instead, there is a US tax amount derived from that foreign income, and if there is an income tax imposed abroad on that income, you can use that foreign tax to offset the US tax on that income. This is precisely the concept of the foreign tax credit. In other words, I had previously earned 300 million won, but I got about 150 million won, which was about $120,000. After excluding all of this, with the foreign earned income exclusion, we will calculate about half of the remaining amount as taxable income in the US, but for this income as well. Of course, since it's income earned in Korea, you would have paid income tax in Korea. It means that you can use the income tax paid in Korea to offset and reduce the US income tax. So, for example, if the taxable income is 150 million won remaining, and let's say the US income tax comes out to be $20,000. And if the tax already paid in Korea, the income tax that matches this income was $15,000, then the additional tax to be paid in the US would not be the full $20,000, but only $5,000. Furthermore, the income tax rate in Korea, the rate for earned income, is generally higher than the US federal income tax rate for the same high income. What does this mean? It means that since more tax is paid in Korea, there would be no additional tax to pay in the U.S. Ultimately, what this means is, when you combine the foreign earned income exclusion and the foreign tax credit, the U.S. income tax burden for the person who asked the question is likely to be non-existent or very low. So, coming back to what this person was worried about, I've lived abroad for a long time as a citizen, and I haven't reported or paid income taxes, and I also haven't reported my assets even though I should have. This has been accumulating over time. So how do I resolve this? Regarding that concern, someone suggested giving up citizenship, but that's not the solution. I will talk about that shortly, but in terms of income tax, I confirmed that through the method I just mentioned, it can be minimized or even eliminated. In terms of asset reporting, with streamlined filing, as a foreign resident, you qualify if you choose the 0% option. I found out that I could be pardoned without paying penalties for missing asset reports. So finally, how can we talk about giving up citizenship? The most important thing is, it's not a fundamental solution. Let's say I give up my citizenship in 2024. Even so, does it solve the issues of what I didn't report in the past? No, it doesn't. It's just covering it up. So I don't know if I should call this a stopgap measure, but it's merely avoiding the problem and hoping nothing happens as you move forward into the future. It's not fundamentally solving the problem, which is the biggest issue. And secondly, as I just mentioned, even when we give up citizenship, in the case of this person, they might think, I don't really go to the US often as a citizen anymore, so why would I need it? That's fine. However, it's not about being pushed into making a decision, but rather knowing that there are these options. As I mentioned earlier, it's about making an informed decision. After realizing that you can resolve the issue without or with minimal penalties or tax burdens, isn't making that decision the most important thing. Therefore, considering these factors, I can say that renouncing citizenship is not a good way to solve this problem, but rather a wrong choice. Not only that, giving up citizenship isn't really that easy, is it? Because, well, there are costs involved. There are also things to consider in terms of the procedure, even if it's not difficult, to get a green card or visa again. In terms of future relations with the U.S., various inconveniences can arise, so ultimately, knowing that you can resolve issues without giving up citizenship, the idea is that renouncing citizenship should be considered as the best means only after considering all options, as an informed decision. Yes, so today I mentioned that by using the streamlined filing procedure and two things like the foreign earned income exclusion and the foreign tax credit, you can sufficiently resolve this issue with minimal burden in the given situation. Renouncing citizenship and such are not appropriate. The idea was that it's not too late to consider renouncing citizenship after reasonably resolving the current issue with other measures. I hope today's content was helpful. I believe there are people around you who also need this kind of information. This channel is a space. It's a space that aims to grow together with you. I hope you don't miss out on essential information next time by subscribing and liking. Additionally, I ask for your support in spreading this information widely to those around you. Thank you.